Are you ready? Can crush us. It don't really get no better than this. The podcast that you're looking for if you're really heavy into wrestling. Hosted by the Mark. Energy that's so amazing. Gotta keep it entertaining. Rep the Can Crusher Nation. Yeah, you know what's going down in the ring. Lights out when you hit a ding ding. Knock 'em out like boom bada bing. Hold it down, you can crown me the king. Got a shout out to the Miz and Duke the Dumpster. We choke slamming everybody. Power driving, hit 'em with a face buster. Yeah, this the show you need and it ain't no need for waiting. Mark, hold it down for the Can Crusher Nation. All about wrestling and keep it entertaining. Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Time to break 'em, let's go. Yeah, Can Crushers. Yeah, Can Crushers. Let's go.
This is Shalonce Royale. And if you're not listening to Can Crushers, like, what are you doing? You need to listen. You have to listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a Can Crushers Wrestling Spotlight. I am your host, Mark the Mark Martinez. This is your first time, stick and stay. If you've been here a long time, I'm so happy that you are back for another Spotlight here on Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Collar and Elbow. Hats, hoodies, tees, all the cool things that Al Snow and the Hooligans have down at Collar and Elbow. Make sure you check them out. We have a promo code for you. It's Can Crushers. Capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers. Smash it together, make it one word, because that saves you 10% off your entire order. Hey, don't forget, we also have a WWE affiliate code. We're very transparent on the show that we will tell you. Sometimes you get a discount, sometimes you don't. But if you know that you're going to buy the new Logan Paul shirt or an LA Knight shirt or whomever shirt, you know you're going to spend about $25 to $40. Use our link because it helps us out. It really does. We also have merch as well over at CrowdMade, so make sure you check out CrowdMade. Type in Can Crushers, and you'll see our hoodies, tees, tanks, all the cool stuff that we have there. Go and buy some stuff up because that helps support us too, and you'll look amazing. Guys, you know where to listen everywhere. We're available everywhere to fill your ear hole. So make sure you like, subscribe, and do all that cool stuff. Leave us some ratings and everything you do on podcast sites, because that helps us out too, to continue to stay in the top echelon of wrestling podcasts out there, so everybody discovers us, and we can bring you more indie talent, more legends, more rising stars, all that stuff that we like to do here on Can Crushers. You're like, Mark, you're doing this all out of order today. I am. I'm a little bit whacked out today. I don't know why. Don't forget to join Facebook, Instagram, X, and all those cool things to join the discussions as we have here on Can Crushers. Also, if you're a professional wrestler in the business, a referee, a manager, anything like that, reach out to us, cancrushers69@gmail.com. We'd love to have you on the show to discuss your wrestling career and find out all the cool things about you, like our guest this week. See how I transitioned that? Like our guest this week, the manager of champions, the Sin City Supernova himself, Johnny Badger. It has been a hot minute since we've had a manager come on the show and discuss some cool stuff. I always love talking to Captain Lou Albano, probably one of my favorite managers. You know, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Cornette, Slick, Mr. Fuji. The list of amazing managers can go on and on. But recently it's just Paul Heyman. Like, what happened to the manager in professional wrestling? I can't wait to ask that question itself to Johnny Badger. That's if he's nice to me. That's if he's nice. He's a little bit of a... how can I put it? A little bit of a guy that seems to rub me the wrong way, and maybe we might not get off on the same foot. But yeah, all that. Another person from North Carolina, Johnny Badger, coming on the show. So stick and stay. He's coming right around the corner.
What's going on, everybody? This is the Fighting Spirit, Trevor Terry, and you're listening to the Can Crushers podcast. Mark is the Fighting Spirit of all podcasts.
Welcome back to Can Crushers, folks. You heard how excited I was that we have a manager coming on the show in the intro. And he is the manager of champions, Mr. Johnny Badger. Johnny, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
I am so happy that I get to pick the brain of, one, the manager of Champions, but two, a manager that we have not had on the show in a while because, listen, there aren't a lot of managers out there. And I'm going to stir the pot real quick with you. You can hate me the whole podcast. There's managers, there's valets, and there's corner people. What I've seen of you is you're a manager. There's a million valets and corner people out there. We need more people like you, Johnny, in professional wrestling, in indie wrestling, in backyard wrestling, in any type of wrestling. What the hell happened to the manager?
I have no idea. I think that a lot of people, they're not willing to take that back seat to the star in a lot of cases. My sole goal when I'm out there or in promos or whatever we're doing, I'm trying to get the talent over. I want them to excel. I want them to reach their full potential. And, you know, everybody I've talked to, whether it's a vet or somebody who's new into the game, every locker room I've been in, it's a general consensus that, you know, to be a manager is its own art form. You're out there, you're an instrument just as much as anybody else. It's just like a band, but you know, you have to be on your tiptoes, the self-awareness. You have to be willing to get under people's skin, which I have zero issue with at all.
I can tell that. I can tell that.
Right. Well, hey, you know, I'm a national treasure. What can I say?
You brought up about managers having to take the back seat a little bit, and I agree with that, but I don't, because my number one manager through my life is Bobby the Brain Heenan. He was more of a star, and right in front of me, nothing against King Haku. That's who I'm looking at right now. He was awesome. I loved King Haku. I did. But let me tell you, when it was a Haku match against anybody, I was more wanting to know what Bobby was going to do on the outside. So I don't know if they really have to take the back seat, because the wrestlers can do their thing, and you can, wrestling word alert, you can shine on the outside by yourself.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, I can, I do have moments where I shine on my own. Maybe a backseat wasn't the best word. You know, I'm a big personality. I have the loud mouth. Gets me into a lot of trouble sometimes, but you know, I'm kind of there to serve the purpose of, you know, getting eyes on my client, on the person who I'm coming out with. And I've been lucky. I've been blessed where whoever it is I'm managing, you know, they're open to have me there. And we have great chemistry. You know, a guest of yours not too long ago, CC Young, she's been fantastic from day one when we started working together. We started back in November, and, you know, she's very thoughtful. She's very talented. She has a great head on her shoulders, and the fact that she was open to working with me in the first place, it makes both of us better. I've learned a lot from her, and I'm very grateful for the time that we've had together.
We're just going to call it the CC Wrestling Podcast. It could still be Can Crushers, but the amount of love in the last, let's say, month that has been thrown at CC Young, and definitely well-deserved, by the way, Johnny. I'm not knocking her, so don't come at me. Well-deserved. This has been a CC Young podcast in the last month, which is awesome, and I love that. I hope she's getting more eyes.
Well, I'm open to getting her her own federal holiday. I'm trying to finish paperwork now. But
as a city worker, please, yes. We talked about that during the intro.
How great to have a day off and get to celebrate CC Young, right?
I'm in. Send it up to Pennsylvania. I'll sign it tomorrow.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. We got you on board. Let's get rolling.
So, the manager of Champions, you know, you live a life most people do not. You know, where'd the money come from? Where'd the skill come from? How do you have the abilities to buy ointments that I cannot buy, or medicines that I cannot buy? Like, where did this come from?
Well, I actually started, more or less a degenerate gambler. I'm good at it, but I've lost big, I've won big. It's something I do to unwind. I spent a lot of time in Vegas. Uh, Honestly, originally from North Carolina, so the people that I work with, I've been spending a lot of time back east, and that's been good. But I'm quite honestly, it was just, I was just bored. I needed a new mountain to climb, and uh, I I was just lucky to find the people that I work with now, find some companies, and just head out. And I mean, it's been an adventure. Had you told me 5 years ago that I would be doing this, I would have told you you're insane. But it's just been an outstanding experience so far.
Degenerate Gambler is probably going to be somewhere in the show notes. So just realize that. That is wonderful. I love that. But all right,
Well, I think
go ahead.
one thing that's been great for me is even when I've lost, I perhaps lack the self-awareness to realize that I've lost or am losing. So I think that's, some people would say that's to my detriment, but I think that it's actually paid off quite a bit over the years. So, hey, to each their own.
Yeah, Manager of Champions says it all to me.
Yeah. I mean, what more do you need to know,
Yeah. All right, let's do the rewind and find out where you became a wrestling fan. Like, was it mom, dad, Uncle Joe, Aunt Sally? Like, who said, hey, Johnny, watch wrestling because you're going to be one of the greatest managers out there?
Ooh, well, I don't want to date myself too much, but I'm going to go ahead and say that when I was a young lad, cartoons used to be a 1 day a week thing. They would come on Saturday morning, and I would wake up and eagerly await whatever cartoons were coming my way. And I remember flipping the channels and coming across NWA.
Yes.
Jim Crockett. That's where. So it was 2 hours of wrestling, and it would start with World Class, which is Fritz Von Erich, the Von Erich family, Gino Hernandez, like all those guys. I think that was the first time I saw the Missing Link, and then that was an hour of that, and then it would be NWA, and it must have been 85 when that's my earliest wrestling memory.
Sounds about right. We're roughly on the same age length thing. Yes. So yeah.
Yeah. So Starrcade The Gathering, Starrcade 85. There's a match on there. It's Magnum TA versus Tully Blanchard in an I Quit match.
One of the greatest matches ever.
I mean, it was just I had never seen anything like that, and it was at a time where you would have to, the younger folk don't understand. You would have to go somewhere and rent a video cassette,
right?
And then you had to be sure that you rewound the whole thing and all that. But I probably rented just that one, Starrcade 85. I mean, probably 100 times, and then the next year was Night of the Skywalkers, Starrcade 86, and I loved Jim Crockett. WWE, WWF at the time, that would come on Sunday morning, and it would be 2 hours of WWE. But I was a fan of the blood. I was a fan of even now, going back and watching some of that old stuff, I like that more. I like how the spotlight kind of traces with the camera, and the sound quality's not great and stuff like that. But that I'm really nostalgic for stuff like that. The Four Horsemen, Dusty Rhodes, Nikita Koloff. When the Road Warriors, when they came on the scene here, I'd never seen anything like that. It just blew my mind. I probably had 1 million Road Warriors posters on my wall. I've always just been a fan. I think that we're living in a time now where kind of like how Star Wars is, or Star Trek, or something like that. When you get into it as a kid, now there's people that are bringing their kids to the shows, and it's a generational thing now. And people can go back with their children and say, well, Magnum TA, Tully Blanchard in a steel cage. Check this out. Because, I do enjoy the product now from a lot of the companies, but if I had one critique, I would say everything is just too shiny.
Yep.
It's too perfect, too well lit. And, I'm a big fan of the crowd being blacked out. I don't want to see the audience. I don't, I don't care about the audience. I don't care who's there. I care about what's going on in the ring. So that spotlight, that, the light just on the ring, I'm a sucker for stuff like that. Just vintage or, classic ways of doing the microphone coming from the ceiling, that kind of stuff. I love stuff like that. So
we can just sit and talk about Crockett Promotions for the next couple hours, and I'd be all right with that if you don't want to talk about your wrestling, because yes, that's my era. That's when my grandfather got me into it, and I was waiting for the day to hope my son liked professional wrestling so I could show him Night of the Skywalkers. One of the stupidest matches. People should have died in that, but one of my greatest matches.
Yeah, well, it's a funny story. I, in that era, the pay-per-view would happen, and then I don't know, right before Christmas, it would be the commercial for it was $35 to buy Night of the Skywalkers, and I had to have it. Yep. There was no other. There was no way I wasn't going to have that.
That's the only thing Santa Claus needs to bring to you, is that.
Yeah. I didn't care about socks. I didn't care about a Nintendo. I didn't care about any of that. I wanted Night of the Skywalkers because, you remember the lead up to that. When the Road Warriors were dropping the pumpkin,
yes,
in slow motion off of the scaffold. I mean, and they would write. They wrote "Beautiful Bobby" on it. They Loverboy Dennis and Jim Cornette on the pumpkins, and I mean, it's just even now, like it hasn't got old. The magic is not lost yet on stuff like that. I might actually watch it tonight, just talking to you about it.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, as soon as this is done, I'm gonna. And that's the cool thing about now, though. Like, we have it right now. Boom. We can go watch it as we're talking to each other if we wanted to.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. I mean, imagine someone telling you that when you were, 10 years old, that, you can watch this pretty much anytime you want when you're an adult. It would just blow your mind.
You talked about renting via VHS tapes or anything like that. Did you ever get to go to a closed circuit event? Like, that's the only way, and I've told you roughly where I'm from, and the Can Crusher Nations know where we're at. But my closed circuit was the closest one for any of the WrestleManias. That's what they would bring closed circuit to. None of the Crockett stuff made it up around here to do closed circuit, but WrestleManias did. And that was 2 hours away. And I'm convincing, either my mother or my father, hey, let's go to, shout out to Altoona, Pennsylvania. They have closed circuit WrestleMania. They're like, so what are we doing? Wrestling's going to be there? Because they didn't give two craps. I'm like, no, we're going to go watch it on TV there. The hardest sell in my life. I made it there, though, for WrestleMania 4, which is still my number one WrestleMania out there. The family hated me, by the way. This is the longest WrestleMania known to man, essentially, around that time. And they're like, this is all we're watching.
Tournament, man. You gotta sit through the tournament.
Yeah, it was the greatest thing I ever saw in my life at that time.
Yeah, of course.
So the question, did you ever get to go to a closed circuit or anything like that?
Oh, no. Actually, my father had, these big satellite dishes in our backyard.
The ones that NASA uses.
Right, yeah. But there's like, I don't know, he had it configured some way where there's like this little plastic box that you could put in the main console, and so you could get like the pay-per-views and stuff like that.
Yeah, we know. You're scamming something, but it's okay. You can't. It's 30 years old now.
I was an innocent child in the whole thing. I didn't do anything. I just enjoyed wrestling entertainment. So if I was guilty of one thing, it was just being a wrestling fan. So.
And you've mentioned a ton of names already, but like when you first saw somebody, who were you drawn to? You're like, yes, this is next God, who is the greatest thing in the world.
Oh, well, as I said that, there was the Road Warriors. And I had, I had two friends that were older than I was. So, we would do like the backyard stuff, but since I was the youngest and the smallest, they always made me Paul Ellering.
Yes.
I was listening to the animal, and it would just drive me. And like, I mean, hilariously, like I would almost be in tears. Like I was Paul Ellering last weekend. Can I be Animal just one time? Please let me be Animal just one time. But, I think the first, match where it really clicked with me was much later, but Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was the first time it was the first time I'd seen a match where like I appreciated the athleticism and the storytelling of it. That there was the Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard, but I just loved it because I hated Tully Blanchard and enjoyed watching him getting stabbed in the head. But seeing Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect. And by the way, I don't know if this is a divisive topic, but I'm a Bret Hart guy.
So you think he did no wrong in the Montreal Screwjob is where you're getting to?
I think it could have been handled differently. I hate, it's all hindsight is 20/20 and everything, but it could have all been handled different. But it's unfortunate that Bret Hart's career ended the way it did. But leading up to that, I mean, in my mind, the 90s, especially like early to mid 90s, kind of belonged to him.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, right up until Stone Cold, really, really broke out. But Bret Hart, man, I that was the guy for me growing up. And
can I ask you this though, just to stir the pot, because I'm an Owen guy. Do you think Owen, without his tragedy, could have been bigger than Bret?
Yeah, I think so. I think Owen, I think it's a generational thing, or, your big brother is the champion and goes through all that. But, it's certainly the greatest tragedy and one of the greatest tragedies in wrestling that, we never got to see, full Attitude Era Owen. We never got to see, once, Kurt Angle. I mean, Kurt Angle and Owen Hart, I mean, that would have been an unbelievable feud,
Owen Eddie. Owen, I'm going to say another name that everybody's going to go crazy about. Owen Benoit. I mean, yeah.
I mean, Owen, by like 03 or 04, I mean, who knows what he could have accomplished by that time. And, towards the end, like the last few years, he had more of a serious edge to him. Mm-hmm. But he's one of those guys that you look back on, and I mean, he had everything. A lot in common with Eddie Guerrero in that respect, in that he could do serious and he could do comedy. Kurt Angle's another guy. So he could do super serious and he could be hilarious. And it's almost like, back to back, within the same feud, he could be comic relief and then do something so dark or twisted or aggressive that you're like, who is this guy? But actually, now Kurt Angle is one of those guys for me too. I absolutely love Kurt Angle too. So
another Pennsylvania boy, yeah, for sure. Love Kurt. All right, back to you for real this time. We'll stick and stay with you. So childhood, you did some backyard wrestling and everything, but what else did you do? Because, when you were flipping and you found Crockett, I know it was in your head instantly. You're like, oh man, I'm going to get into this when I grow up. But what else did you do? Baseball, football, kind of stuff like that?
Well, no, I was a music guy. I was
Oh.
in bands, and um, you know, that's the weirdest thing about life right now is it was never something that I watched, and I was like, oh, I mean, you would daydream like it would be great to be Bobby Heenan, or it would be great to be Jimmy Hart, or something like that, or even at that age you're like, oh, I'd love to get in the ring and do stuff, but I was more of a musical guy. But fun Johnny Badger fact. When I was in school, from K all the way to graduating, I was classmates and friends with Jeff Hardy.
No
So
way!
yeah, so watching him, it must have been our junior year was when he started kind of getting in to WWE, and it was just mind blowing. And then to see him on TV and stuff like that, I mean, what a career for him. But um, he still lives probably 5 minutes from my mom's house. So there is that
You ever give him a
one.
quick call? Hey, remember me? Let me be your manager. Anything like that?
Right. Well, that's what's funny. I'll see him out every now. We're always cordial. When him and Matt were doing shows at the fair, the county fair, they would let me play music during intermission. Um, and so whatever band I was in, I would play during intermission. And even then, watching them in the ring, it's like, well, I'll never do that. I'm a music dork, So,
Yeah, music dorks are needed. Music dorks are needed in wrestling nowadays, right?
right, yeah, it pays off. Actually, my entrance music, uh, me and a buddy of mine, Tate Phillips, he produces stuff for me every now and again, but he kind of led the way on my theme music. So it's up on Spotify if anybody wants to check it out. Johnny Badger theme music. So check it out.
We'll make sure you get all those wrapped back around to you. All right, so you were the music dork, and you weren't sure if you wanted to get into this. When does this aha moment then that, hey, I'm going to get into professional wrestling. I'm going to become a manager. I'm going to have one match recently, and we'll get into that as well here shortly. But how do you get to this place now?
Oh, okay. So, uh, in so basically, I had spent most of my life in music and had varying degrees of success and had traveled the country, and I had just gotten to a point where it was old for me. Yeah, I was tired of it. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And 2020 came around and everything stops. And I had realized that it had been about 6 years since I had been in front of a crowd of any kind and I had done anything creative. I'll be honest, like I was just kind of in a funk. I was in a rut. I was kind of, it was like Groundhog Day. I would wake up, rinse, repeat. It was the same thing every day. And when everything shut down, I started looking at my guitar and, started writing songs, got back out. And it just so happened that one of my music collaborators, his cousin is Champagne.
Oh, okay.
And so Champagne, his nephew, I mean, it's all very, friend of a cousin of a friend type thing, but his nephew was starting a wrestling company, Alternative Combat Wrestling, with some friends of his, and they needed a ring announcer, or they needed a commentator. And they were like, see if Johnny will do it. And I was just at a phase in my life where I was saying yes to everything, and I was starting to kind of see the sunshine again a little bit. And so I think it was October of 2021, maybe. They had their first show, and I got there, and I was excited, and I was nervous, and I showed up and dressed like I dressed, because I wanted their company to succeed. And that's kind of been a theme for me from day one is, I want to be there to make everything better. I want to do my part to, the rising tide raises all ships, all that stuff. But, so I went around to every guy and, where are you from? What's your move? Blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the guys, you could tell no one had ever asked them that before. No one had ever taken time to try to figure out, who are you? What do you want to get over? What do you want me to say? And it was live.
What can I talk about?
Yeah. So, the crowd was hearing me speak, the crowd was here. It was live. So, after a while, the gentleman that was booking there, Cade Seidel, and the owner, Chance Fry, they decided to get rid of live commentary. And when they told me, they pulled me aside and said, we're getting rid of it. And I, thank you for the opportunity. It was great. Had a great time. And they were like, hold on. Do you think you could be a character? Do you think you could be part of this? And, I tried to play it cool. I usually always try to play it cool, but in my brain, I was like, yes, absolutely. I will do that one.
Yep.
I will jump at this opportunity. And, I remember, it was a few months later, I think in November of 2022 was my first night coming out officially. Cause I was kind of a heel announcer. I like being a jerk. I like getting under people's skin. It's fun to me. And so Johnny Badger made his first appearance, and I remember sitting back in that hallway getting ready to come out, and I'll never forget it. And I do like telling people this story in that my legs were shaking, and I had been in front of thousands of people. I've played, massive venues, amphitheaters, arenas, and I couldn't remember the last time my legs were shaking. I couldn't remember the last time I was so nervous. My legs were shaking. And once I got in the ring, I had to walk because if I had stood still, my knees were
gonna buckle. Yeah,
they would have buckled. I mean, it was just so exhilarating, and to be in that ring for the first time, it was just, I was addicted almost immediately. And I had music bookings, and that was a few years ago. But the more I would get in the ring, and the more I was able to explore who I was as Johnny Badger, I just fell more and more in love with it. And I stopped booking as many musical, because that's a whole other world for me. I'm a whole other person. That's not. I don't. Those never.
They don't cross.
They don't intersect at all. And I just fell in love with something that, that audience. And, in the last year, I started working for another company, Next Level. And they have the Training 2-6 Academy. And again, one of your old guests, CJ Evans, and referee Ref Brandon, they were on me. They were like, you should come to training. You should come to training. I would pretty much just take everything as it was coming to me. And I was like, I don't know, I don't know. And I get into training, and just from the trainers to Tony James, Hang Time, Tony James, the head trainer, the owner of Next Level, from top to bottom, it's just this big support system. It's like a football team. And it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before, because with music, I had been on my own. I would travel on my own. And with this, you go into a room and everybody's at different phases of, skill levels and stuff like that. But the one common thread is we're all supportive of each other, and we all want each other to do well. And that was addicting. I couldn't wait to come back. And, I'm still, I'm not, I'm not going to have any 5-star matches anytime soon, probably. But I
But
wanted to
still,
know. Yeah.
that's pretty awesome. You're late into the business, essentially.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's kind of with we were talking about with managers. Um, I wanted to understand like the science and the art of being a manager, and if I'm going to be out there, I have to understand, positioning. I have to understand, if I'm in the wrong spot, someone else could get hurt. Never mind, I could get hurt, but I don't want someone getting hurt and that being on me because I didn't know what I was doing. So I wanted to understand the art of being a, a professional wrestling manager because there is an art to it. And I think it's a lost art nowadays. And I feel that, my role and my goal as far as getting better at that, I think that's where it pays off. I think that's what's gonna make me useful to any company I work for. Is the more I understand what being a manager is and how to do it, the sky's the limit because there's not a lot of competition in the manager category. So I'm just trying to get better at that every day. But yeah, I mean, I get to talk to these veterans of the business, and most of them, actually all of them, 100% in my experience. Hey, could you watch my match? Any advice you have? And I'm so late in the game, I don't. My feelings won't get hurt if you tell me what you just did was stupid or whatever. Which that hasn't happened, but vets and people that have been in the business for a while, they're an open book. They want you to be better too. So I've benefited greatly, and I think my growth, and this is just me, but my growth has just skyrocketed since I started going to training and started understanding the business a bit more and asking questions. I mean, I'll ask. I'm asking a million people a million questions as long as at the end of the day I get to be better. You know what I mean?
Right. But no, that's the way of life though too. You should not be afraid to ask questions to get better. That's the best way that you can get better because if you just sit and you do the same thing over and over and over, you're stagnant. You're not learning anything. You got your continuous of bad habits if you have bad habits, or you're not pushing yourself. So yeah.
Well, I was excited also that I was the new guy at something. Being this late in the game, I'm the new guy, and it's like every other aspect of my life, I'm expected to know.
You're the old guy.
Yeah, yeah, people come to me for the advice, but here, I'm a baby in wrestling years. Really, I've been doing it for 4 years, but as I said, just in the last year, just with training and stuff like that, and trying to get better, and just learning. Like we at Next Level at 2-6, we just had a seminar with Mike Quackenbush.
Unbelievable, isn't he?
Oh, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, it's just one of those times where you just see the infinite knowledge this guy has, and I think that was an equalizer. Like, everybody's at different skill levels, but everybody's learning something at the exact same time, and it was just inspiring to be there. And he had a talk with us at the end, and when he's done talking, man, you feel like, man, I could run through a brick wall right now.
Yep.
Like, I am so fired up by what this dude just said that, like, yeah, I mean, it's the greatest feeling. And, if you're open to change and if you're open to life, I guess, it takes you in all these cool positions and cool roads. But, like right now I really have no complaints as far as where my career or my journey is.
Yeah. It seems, not that you say you put down the music or anything, but just from the vibes I'm getting through the phone, computer, and everything, you're pretty damn happy right now, aren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a. I mean, again, you and I are at the same level as a same age group probably,
Yeah.
and it's you're doing something really cool, and it's making you happy. And, I know exactly where you're at right now, because I think our generation, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, guys our age were kind of hanging up everything in a weird way. It's really time for us to be on a recliner and at like 7 in the evening, but,
watching Jeopardy. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've been hitting the gym. I'm in the best shape of my life right now. And I mean, that includes, high school, in my 20s, like, and that's only getting better. I feel like $1 million, and, it was wrestling that brought that to me. So it's just great.
It's a special sickness, isn't it? It really is.
It really is. I could not agree more.
So when you start doing your tape study, this is going to go hand in hand, I think, with the next question then. When you start doing your tape study for managers, are you sticking and staying with, and I'm going to throw out a couple, are you sticking and staying with Bobby? Are you watching what Paul does? Are you looking at Slick? I mean, and I'm naming all the managers of our era because, listen, there isn't any anymore. But, Paul, you can throw Heyman in, I'm sure, but, like, who makes up who Johnny Badger is then?
Oh, wow. Well, I would say my top two guys that I look at are Heenan and Cornette.
Okay.
And, Gary Hart.
I love Gary Hart. Still underrated. Still underrated.
I mean, just his delivery and his presence. I'll never. I guess he did it. He did it how he wanted to do it. As far as he never, went up north or anything like that. But Gary Hart, man. But yeah, Heenan and Cornette, especially being a Crockett guy.
Mm-hmm.
I, as a child, absolutely despised Jim Crockett.
Who didn't?
Yeah, I mean, and now doing it, I'm like, that guy was a damn genius. Like, it's amazing the work that he did. But Bobby Heenan, I actually very recently started watching Saturday Night's Main Event from the first episode. I just watched them all, and there was like Bobby Heenan. I guess he's the guy to shoot for. I mean, for me, in my mind, but there'll never be anything like him again. If you watch him when somebody's chasing him, how he clears that top rope
mm-hmm.
with like this weird cartwheel thing. I mean, he does that effortlessly. I mean, it's effortless, but if he had done that just even a little bit wrong, he would have broken both of his ankles pretty quick. But
dead. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, not to mention the Ultimate Warrior, like, damn near killed him probably 30 times. Well, Ultimate Warrior was there, but and then modern era. I mean, like, who's going to touch Heyman?
Right.
I mean, Heyman right now, for my money, is just, he's teaching a master class on how to be a manager or an advocate or representative or whatever you want to call it.
Wise man or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just it's a sight to see. And that's what we were saying earlier, is when it's done right, it's the best form of entertainment ever. And he's doing it right every time he's out.
So the big question is, because we found out a little about who Johnny Badger is and everything, my question is to you, why then, since we've spoken so highly on all of them, why did wrestling in general, because it was wrestling in general, got rid of the manager? What happened? Was it because, let's call it a spade, it's another person to pay?
Yeah, well, maybe. Yeah, I think that there was a brief period where the managers weren't that good.
Touche. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, but I think that we can look back early 2000s on to maybe like 2015 or something, And there were a few guys that, you know, were just guys in a suit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't really bring anything to the table. And that's where the trick is, as far as, you know, they have to be part of the presentation, but they also have to kind of, you know, make their mark in the presentation. Like Bobby Heenan, he was, you know, he had the Heenan family.
Right.
So when and I think, you know, a lot of, with him, they would bring in guys that weren't necessarily good on the microphone or good in promos. And he would, you know, when he was managing Andre the Giant, you really never understood anything Andre was saying, but, you know, you believed it when he was a good guy. And then he comes out there, and I think Bobby Heenan, so late in the game, but added this dimension to Andre, where, I mean, Andre was kind of frightening when he had him.
Hell yeah. He was frightening as a good guy. He was just that big ass bastard. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, but yeah, and Cornette, you know, beautiful Bobby, as good as he was in the ring, admittedly, you know, he wasn't much of a talker.
Dennis said the same thing. Dennis hated talking. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine what the Midnight Express would have been without Cornette, you know, like take Cornette out of that, and, you know, you have great in-ring guys, but the presentation of, you know, you hated Dennis and Bobby more because of what Jim Cornette said, you know.
Exactly.
Like, you wanted them to get their head smashed in too, you know. But yeah, there is an art to it, and, you know, I'm doing the best I can to figure it out any way I can, and, you know, I want to be as big as the business will allow me to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. We get it. All right, let's take a moment break from wrestling and get into some nerd stuff. Like when Johnny isn't, you know, managing people and doing cool stuff in professional wrestling, and we talked about the music part of your life as well. We're going to throw that away. Like, what do you like to nerd out about? You know, you have a day off of everything. You're just going to sit around. You're going to be that old guy that we are, and just, like, what do you like to do? Are you still a video game guy like I am, or what goes through your mind on days off?
Ooh, well, usually, if I have a day off, I'll probably work on some music. I'm at this stage of my life, I have a lot of trouble sitting still. I don't know if it's, I don't know if I need to be on medication.
It's called anxiety. It's
yeah. I pace a lot. You know, my brain, I get angry when I'm bored, which I don't know.
Welcome to my life. We're brothers, clearly. So, okay, yeah, go ahead.
We've got to hang out, like, really soon. We've got to hang out. We have a great time. But yeah, I listen to music. I go to the gym. You know, like, I don't know if this is too behind the curtain, but I'm a father also to two children. So they boss me around pretty good. They keep me busy. But, you know, I come home
and you have chores to do. Let's call a spade a spade. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like to, I drive a buddy of mine, again, collaborator, music collaborator. I drive out to his house and work on music. It's sort of like rebuilding a classic car, but we're putting songs together and stuff like that. But I actually don't have a lot of free time now that I think about it. I'm trying to go through
I didn't think you did, honestly. I didn't think you did.
Yeah, well, you know, this past weekend, it was my first in-ring thing, but earlier in the night, I had to perform at a festival, play music at a festival. So
you did a 2-shot your first time. Cool. Essentially.
Yeah, thing, like, we got done with the set, and we had a great time. And, you're going like, thank you so much for having us. Thank you so much for coming. And then I immediately ran to my car, drove down the road, got there, changed. And it's like, trying to get under people's skin. And it's like, I was on my way home after all of that, thinking like, I hope this does not lead to some sort of, mental collapse. To get people to like me in one place and trying to get them to hate me in another place, but truth be told, I was really proud of this weekend, because I'm the only guy I know that can pull that off. And I did it with confidence and grace and perfection. I'm just kidding, but yeah, it was a weird weekend.
Very humble, very humble.
Yeah, it's the best thing about me.
Right? Yeah, I can tell. I can clearly tell. Hey, before we get into the random questions, I have a question from you from a past guest, and here it comes.
Hey, my name is J-A-T, and what is the most disgusting thing that you yourself have ever done in your entire life?
The most disgusting thing I've ever done in my life.
Hey, I just record the questions. That's all.
Oh man. Well, there's a million answers probably to this. But the most disgusting thing, that is, well, I would say recently, it doesn't sound disgusting, but believe me, it was. I wore the same shirt to the gym for about 3 days and kept it in my car and would just throw it on in the parking lot. And by day 4,
it was standing by itself.
Yeah, it was gross. I mean, that's not usually me, but it was just it was a symphony of errors for me, where I would forget to pack a shirt, and the second day I forgot to pack a shirt, and then third day I didn't want to drive all the way home, so I was like, I'll wear it again, and then I went to put it on that fourth day, and I actually put it on, but it smelled like Satan's armpit. It was just the grossest thing. Like, I think it brushed my lips when I was putting it on, and like I actually let out an audible like in the car by myself, and it's a North Carolina summer, so it was like 103 degrees outside. I'm not proud of it. But
I was gonna say, was it moist at all by day number 4? But it was just baking in the car, so it was definitely not moist.
Yeah, it was a moist baking, but yeah, and quite honestly, like, as far as legit the most disgusting thing I've ever done. My grandkids will hear this someday, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep
let's hope. Let's hope.
I'm gonna keep that to myself. Yeah.
That is the conversation when we hang out together and we have a beer or something. Yes, I definitely need to hear it now.
We're gonna do Jack and Cokes now. We're gonna have a blast.
Oh, I'm all for those too. So, all right, 3 random stupid questions coming at you now from me. If you were a sandwich, what would be on your sandwich? What would be the Johnny Badger?
Oh, let's see. I would do like a roasted red pepper mayo, Genoa salami, smoked turkey, smoked Gouda, red onion, tomato, oil and vinegar, some oregano, and maybe like a light German mustard or something like that.
This is definitely a fancy sandwich, as we would say up here. You have to have a specialty bread then too. This isn't going on Stroman's normal bread.
Oh yeah. Okay, so if it's not like a sourdough, like a sliced sourdough that you can grill,
yes,
I would do find the flakiest, like baguette or sub roll type thing, like crunchy on the outside but soft on the inside.
Oh,
yeah, I'm a big sandwich guy, man. That's a great question. I do love good. I've actually done my best to stay away from bread for a while now, which makes me very happy at times. So.
I've tried that. Listen, I've given up Well, I'm sitting here drinking a beer or two, so carbonation, that's a lie. But like, I don't do sodas anymore or anything like that. I'm trying to wean off of the sugars because of our age. I can't give up on bread. That listen, that's my crack. Like, I will buy bread, and me and the dogs will just rip open a loaf of Italian bread before anybody comes down from the upstairs. It's gone.
Yeah.
I just, bread's my thing, man. I really, it's horrible. I mean, bread in the amount of quantity that you're supposed to have is okay. Well, listen, this is not a Dr. Phil show or a diet show or anything like that, but you shouldn't sit here and eat whole loaves of bread in a 5-minute sitting, though, right?
Yeah, well, I'm a big fat phony. Look, I'll be honest with you. Just very recently, I was on vacation, and we went to this really nice Italian restaurant where they make everything from scratch, and like the pasta is homemade, and the bread's homemade, and all that. And it was like they brought the bread to the table, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have one. I'm gonna have one because I know how it's gonna make me feel. And then they bring out this homemade pasta with your dish, and I was like, I'm gonna have one forkful of this pasta, and I wound up eating like I don't know, like all the pasta.
An endless buffet. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, oh man, I get in the car and I felt like I had cheated or something. I was just kind of beating myself up, but it was worth it because it was delicious. So, you got to live. I mean, food is one of those things where as long as you're not like abusing it you're eating sticks of butter or something, like a good meal, a good home cooked meal, or a good restaurant. I mean, that's the spice of life right there, my man.
It is nothing better. This might go hand in hand. I'm telling you, the randomizer is weird sometimes. What is one bad habit you're trying to get rid of then? Essentially, probably besides bread, because you haven't gotten rid of it yet.
Yeah, well, I never considered bread a bad habit.
Okay.
I also
Deal.
Bread, but well, I'm trying to stop biting my fingernails. I've actually really been on that for a little bit. That's like my thing right at the moment, is trying to not bite my fingernails. But I've done it for so long that I'll be in the middle of it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be
doing this.
Yeah. Also that, and I've tried to cut back on coffee. I've tried to stop drinking coffee because I would go through, I don't know, like a pot in the first 4 hours I was awake. So I had to kind of get that out of the way a little bit.
Two things that I love, though, again, bread and coffee. I digress. Last random question. If you could sit down with, like WWE does, table for four, if you could drag 3 other people to your table to have a dinner with, and it can be anybody in history, who are you going to have sitting with you?
Whew. Well, John Lennon would be one. I'd like to have him there. Burt Reynolds. And he's kind of contemporary. He's kind of current, but I find him very funny. A stand-up comedian by the name of Shane Gillis. He's from up by you, actually.
I was going to say, not that I know him, but I've heard the name and I've seen some, yeah.
I just think that would be an interesting meal. But like Burt Reynolds is just, he's classically cool.
He's iconic. He really is.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. Like, man, I'd like to be Burt Reynolds for a day, but I mean, not now, obviously. But he's Burt Reynolds. I would totally be Burt Reynolds for a day.
Okay. Back to wrestling. What's the best advice? In your baby career, essentially 4 years, still baby in wrestling here on the show. Johnny, what's the best advice you've gotten behind the curtain so far?
Behind the curtain. Well, the best advice that I've taken at every opportunity is ask questions. Ask. I mean, it's a lot like music in that you're never going to know everything. You're never going to be the best guitar player. I mean, you can be a phenomenal guitar player, but you're never going to be the best, because it's all, I guess it's subjective or whatever, but ask, because every bit of information that you get along the way is going to help you. And actually, Mike Quackenbush said that just 2 days ago. Always ask. Always get as much information as you can. I told a lot of people, because I experienced it too, where sometimes you're your own worst enemy. You're the person that's going to stop you more than anybody else on the planet.
I'm nodding heavily over here, by the way, because you're hitting a nerve right now with me. So yeah.
Yeah, just do it, and learn as much as you can. But the only person that has any true hold over you is yourself. So get that out of the way early on. Because I still combat. I still deal with that every day. So it's good to tell other people to do the thing that you do to yourself. I guess like, you change it, I'm just going to keep dealing with it, kind of thing. But
agreed. I told my son, who graduates next year, I said, dude, this is cool what I'm doing, this, that, and the other, and we're fine life wise. I said, but do you don't have to ask your mom or me what's going on. I said, I didn't do that. I lived for grandma sometimes. I lived for grandpa sometimes. Do you? We'll always be here. Ask questions. Go run amok. Do you? Essentially. He's like, oh.
I think, you and I are a lot alike in that, I think the best example you can set for your children is you're doing something that fulfills you and makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing you can teach them, in that, it's up to you to make yourself happy, to find the thing that brings you joy, because in the greater world, man, like, nobody really cares about your joy. So you have to find it, And
that's so harsh, but it's so true.
Yeah. Cause they're worried about their own joy.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, like, good on you, man. I mean, what an example. I mean, I think about that a lot when I'm coming home late, stuff like that. Where it's like, it's better than them watching somebody just, slowly deteriorate from boredom,
Yep.
Set that example.
Agreed. This is the toughest question that I ask on the show. What needs to change in professional wrestling? And we both have said more managers, so we both cannot say this. Okay, but what needs to change in professional wrestling? Because some of the stigmas that I'm talking about, this, that, or the other, and we don't have to bring them up, but, what's on your mind right now?
Ooh. So just right off the bat, if I say the wrestling business needs more Johnny Badger, that counts as more managers, right?
Clearly, yes. They do need more Johnny Badger, though.
Yeah. But I would say something that I've seen that kind of bothers me, especially now that I know people in the business and work around it, is this weird tribalism thing, where you'll see somebody, whether it's AEW or something like that, where they'll post there's open seats at the arena, and they're kind of gloating, like, yeah, look at this, That drives me insane. Yeah. It's hurting the business. You're not helping the company of your choice. You're hurting the business as a whole by gloating and feeling good that sometimes if it's a new market or a new place or a certain time of year, you're not going to pack an arena every single time. But to hope for the failure of a business because it's not your company, the company that you pull for, it really bothers me. I hate to see that.
Agreed. Fans are, and we call them out, Johnny, by the way, on the show, especially on Saturday shows when we have had a few to drink, we'll call out fans. It does nothing for the business. It really doesn't. It doesn't help the WWE. It doesn't help AEW. It doesn't help, Crockett. It doesn't help the NWA. It does nothing. You're just being that ass clown trying to get views for yourself. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it serves no purpose.
Right.
You're literally wasting everyone's time by doing that, and you're coming off as a douchebag, when you do that. So.
You are. What's your greatest accomplishment thus far in your career? Is it being the manager of champions? Is it knocking that first match that you've had? Or is it something completely that I don't know about?
Ooh. Well, I would say a lot of my well, I don't know if it's my greatest accomplishments, but like the things I'm most proud of are they happen in training. Like, doing something that I was afraid to do and getting out of my own way and embracing the support of everybody in that room and doing it. Or not even doing it perfectly, but doing it a little bit better every single time. Like I've never left class feeling like it was a bad night. I've always left being like, okay, I have to work on this, and I'm a step closer to. And I really don't even know what the end goal is, which I kind of like that, because I'm just going to keep trying to get better at what I'm doing. But I'm really proud of the work I did with alternative combat wrestling. We had about a 2-year story arc with a group. We were in a group called Ego, and some of the vignettes with that, some of the storytelling with that, I'm very proud of, because it was my first thing. It was my first thing in the business. And later on, I'm very proud of the stuff that Cece and I have done together. She's able to play to a different part of her character and start kind of unwrapping that. And she's brilliant. I mean, she's been fantastic. And, we went to a theater, a local theater. They let us film some vignettes in that, and we got to put our picture up on this giant screen, and we got to do a couple promos with our pictures on this 30-foot screen, and talk shit and
Right.
be judged and stuff. And I was proud of that. I'm proud of a lot of stuff that we've done, all of it actually. And if God willing, she's going to go far, and this will be like a blip on her radar. But it's been one of the great joys of my life doing this work with her. So very grateful.
That's awesome. CC, I'm telling you, CC's getting more shout outs than anybody in the world here on the show, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, I strongly encourage it and support it. So
Right. All right. So
let's put her to the moon.
yeah, I agree. We talked a lot of great stuff. We found out the most disgusting thing you've done. But all right, we need one more. We need the most embarrassing moment thus far, and this can be clearly wrapped around wrestling. How many times have you tripped come to the ring or something like that?
Oh, I've tripped a few times actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes the lights get in your way, and sometimes you just kind of lose yourself. I had to break up a match one time, and this was early on, but they told me what to look for, because I find out what I'm supposed to look for and find out what I'm supposed to do, and then I'll ask somebody 40 times, like, okay, so it's it's a running elbow and then this and that, and it happened, and I guess their signals got crossed, but I was still new, and kind of lost in the moment and wound up breaking up the pin for my own guy.
Oh no.
And like, like, the two guys, they were down there, they're like, what the hell? And the referee's like, what the hell? And I'm thinking, what the hell? Like, but we played it off, but I was like, man, what a bonehead. Everybody was cool about it. I mean, it wasn't, it didn't end the world. And, part of being your worst critic, your own worst critic, I beat myself up about that. It probably still now, like as I go to sleep at night, that'll pop in my head and be like, what a bonehead move. Good God, why did I do that?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to bring it back up tonight then. Man, I'm
Well,
sorry.
it's good. It's good. Reflection is good.
It is. It is. What's the goals for just Johnny Badger for the rest of this year?
Well, I would like to work for at least 2 more companies, or at least make an appearance for a few more companies. Branch out that way. I'd like to pick up a few more clients. Actually, a guy I'm working with in alternative combat, the Silver Fox. He's fantastic.
He is. He
and
is.
He's been so good to me. And, again, with managing, it all depends on the person where, if right out of the gate, they're like, I really don't want to do this. Like, that'll show when you get out in front of the crowd. But I've been blessed to work with people that were excited to have me on board and see that I bring something, or see that, we can make something really cool, and they're excited about it. So, but yeah, I'd like to just try to build it up as best I can. I've really been kind of just riding the wave from day one. Like, everything from the second I announced my first event, it's all been icing on the cake. It's all been, just stuff that I would have never expected. I'm taking it as it comes, and I'm grateful for every opportunity. So, hopefully I get more opportunities.
Do you have your eyes? And I know, a good manager doesn't tell this, but do you have your eyes on some people that you want to bring into your family, gang, nation, whatever you're going to end up calling it? I mean, you have the leader in Cece. We've given her everything. You've mentioned Silver Fox. He's unbelievable. But do you have eyes on some people that you're like, yep, this is another person that should join Johnny Badger?
Well, I've tried to be an open book for this interview, but unfortunately, I'm gonna have to zip my lip a little bit, because something really cool is coming. I'm going to be working with a guy that I have had my eyes on for a long time, and I would say just keep your eyes open, and you'll see. It's going to be something. It's going to be fun.
See, and that's the question I really wanted answered on this. But of course, as a good manager, you would not leak that, because it could be a surprise, this, that, or the other. I thought we could become that good of friends. But that's all right. I understand, Johnny.
We'll talk about over beers and Jack and Cokes someday.
Deal. It'll happen. But yeah. I have to spin this now. I ask wrestlers all the time, what's their dream match? And you had a match, but I want to know your dream family. We talked about Bobby Heenan a lot. Put four or five people of any place that you would have loved to manage in your career.
And this is like of all time?
Of all time.
Oh, wow. Well, Gunther would be one of the first ones that I would ask, because I love that guy. I think he's fantastic. A bit of an older guy that some people might not have heard of, but should definitely watch and check out, is Nick Bockwinkel.
Oh, my God.
I would have him sort of as the leader of the group. In tag team, I mean, I've got to go Road Warriors just because they were my favorite. I mean, they're the muscle and they're the tag team of the group. Female Lita would be on there. I think Medusa, like, she kind of gets her due, but I thought she was fantastic.
I love that group, by the way. Nick Bockwinkel. I was just going to ask you way back, and it slipped my mind, because we brought up WCCW and NWA. I was going to ask, did you ever watch AWA or anything? But you clearly solidified that with Nick Bockwinkel, because AWA was on at 4:05 on ESPN, kids, by the way.
Right. Well, also, I got into AWA because they would sell the VHS cassettes at department stores.
Yep.
And, like, you couldn't find, like, WWE. And so, like, my first introduction to Sergeant Slaughter was through AWA at a pretty young age. I actually met Sergeant Slaughter back in April doing a Comic-Con Next Level. So, a full circle moment, He didn't call me a maggot, which kind of bummed me out. But he was sitting at a table, and, like, I think a lot of us, we never lose that, like, that fandom or whatever. So, it's always like, yes, sir, kind of stuff. But shook his hand. It was great. It was great meeting.
Yeah. Met Sarge a couple times. When I was in college, I met him at I believe it was an Ames or a Fisher Big Wheel up around here. He was doing like some type of tour for something. I've met him at like WrestleCades and stuff like that. I make sure I go over and say hi to him all the time. I am that guy. Like, wrestlers probably remember me, not because of the podcast. They're like, oh, Christ, Mark from Pennsylvania is coming to say hi. He won't shut up because he's going to tell me something from 83 that I did, and I think they just wonder, oh, man, brush this kid aside real quick. No, They talk all the time.
It's like you meet these people and, like, you never lose that fanboy thing because it's like, what am I supposed to say? Like, it was great to meet you or whatever, but there's also that part of you that you're like, I'm a manager now, but it's like,
right.
No, don't do that. Don't say that either,
There's times I've said, I have a podcast. I'd love you to come on it. I also do some commentary, some ring announcing in Pennsylvania. Hopefully I can talk to the promoter to get you on this guy. And wrestlers, I'm not saying this mean, like wrestlers of name, they're just looking at me. And my mom has taught me, all right, once you see the eyes get big, get the hell out of there because you're now just overwhelming them with talking too much, Mark. I'm like, all right, it's nice to meet you. I'm sorry.
There's a genuine part of me. I would never in a million years do this, but I'd like to go up to one of these, like, legends and be like, your career's meant jack shit until you met Johnny. Like, I would never do that, but, like, I have those things where you're like, man, what's the dumbest possible thing I could possibly do right now? So
that would probably be the dumbest possible thing you could do.
How many world titles have you held? Oh, cool. Well, you get to meet Johnny Badger now, so call it a day, son, and then just walk off.
Or they would make their agent come and find you and say, where's this guy work? I need to go there for something. It could be twofold, right?
Yeah. Where's this guy work? I want to have him beaten immediately.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to bring somebody in to beat him up.
Yeah. I want him dropped on his head.
So, Johnny, where are you going to be? Give us your socials. Do you have merch that you would sell if people reach out to you or anything like that? Do all this. This is your time now. You've given your Spotify, but give it again.
Okay. So, the places that I'm currently working, check out Alternative Combat Wrestling on Facebook. We will be doing a cross-promotional show at the Rec Room in Southern Pines, North Carolina. I'll be accompanying my personal hero, the Silver Fox, to the ring. Probably a triple threat, I'm assuming, but that'll be on August 16th. And the next night, I will be working for, and please follow NLPW and 26 Wrestling Academy on Facebook and on YouTube. we'll be at Fort Liberty for a really big show on this August 17th, and that's a big deal. That's gonna be an awesome time, and there might be some surprises there. So please follow me, Johnny Badger, on Facebook. Any sort of questions about merchandise, feel free to message me. I currently do not do a merch table because people hate my guts for the most part. And the fans that do like me, I've actually had a few people dress up like me, make some cardboard cutouts. I have a really good fan base. They have impeccable taste. But please reach out. We'll make it happen. I do have shirts available. And yeah, please follow Miss CC Young on Facebook. She's championship caliber, a legend in her own time. So, all the odds we can get on these companies and these people, the better. And thank you again for having me. It's been a wonderful time. I look forward to meeting you in person someday.
Thank you. This has been a blast.
Hey, this is Slamming Sammy, and I'd just like to say I love Can Crushers podcast. It's a great podcast, a great show, and they have a great host and everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was my guest, the degenerate gambler himself, the manager of champions, the Sin City Supernova, Johnny Badger. This was a blast to talk about his career and what he's done in the short years that he's been in the business and what he's continuing to do. And it was another love fest once again for our gal here on Can Crushers, CC Young. But man, wasn't that beginning, if you're old school like us, wasn't that fun? That is what kept me going. Not that he was not entertaining whatsoever, but I knew the wealth of knowledge that Johnny Badger had for wrestling, from the Gathering to the Night of the Skywalkers, and just so much cool stuff. I can't wait. I really can't wait to sit down and have a beer or a Jack and Coke with him, pick his brain a little bit more, and maybe get some of those stories that he didn't want to tell here on the show. And then I will tell him I'll never say anything about it, but I might bring him back and just change the name or something like that. But guys, make sure you check out Johnny Badger on all socials. Go to Spotify and give him a listen. His theme song's on there. You might like it. It might make your playlist. It's unbelievable. Guys, once again, if you're in professional wrestling, you know somebody that you'd love to have or hear on the show, reach out to them and tell them, hey, reach out to Can Crushers. They're doing great things around the indies, and they love spotlighting the indies. And that is really, Johnny hit the nail on the head. Passion project through and through here on Can Crushers. I love the weekend shows, but man, do I love hearing the who, what, why, and how everybody gets involved in professional wrestling. Guys, thanks for listening once again. Remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot. Make sure you tell your loved ones you love them, because you never know.